Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. I am Jobu's Rum, the host of MFSN's The Hub. I am here, as always, with Kasey Scheinvold, also known as Vlad to the Bone, Fantasy Pros expert Andrew Seifer, and, as always, Ross the Boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk fantasy sports with you, cowboy. I'm so excited about today. We have a great interview with one of my favorite comedians, Gabriel Iglesias. It's going to be great. I can't wait. And what's the first segment today, Dan? Tell me.
Okay, this time, the first segment is the same as it always is. First and 10.
First down.
Okay, on this episode of First and 10, we're going to talk about individual players when you start or sit them. You know, how do you determine it based on matchup, based on weather, all the different factors. So, guys, tell me how you think about this. We're going to talk about high-end guys, low-end guys. Who do you sit? Who do you start?
Well, I mean, the first rule is definitely don't sit your studs. So, there's no matchup that's going to cause me to bench a guy who's an every week running back one or wide receiver one or anything like that. So you don't want to overthink things. In terms of all the different factors you mentioned, to me, the number one factor is usage and role in the offense. I mean, if a guy's getting consistent touches every week, that overrides matchup to me. But that being said, matchup is much more important than like weather or something like that. I don't think they're really comparable. 50% of the game is what you do and 50% is what your opponent does. And then, if you're facing a good defense, that affects things. So, the way I approach it, if it's like two players who are comparable, and the matchup for one is much better, I'm going to bump them significantly ahead. Like, maybe 5 spots up in my rankings, and another guy might get bumped 5 spots down in my rankings or something like that.
You had mentioned at one point, it might have been, in between takes or may have been in a previous segment or even on the waiver wire. I can't remember.
Or in your mind.
But you said,
in your dreams.
Or it was just in my mind. No, I know you said this. You said you were going to bench Amari Cooper. Now, he is a pretty high-end wide receiver 2 or low-end wide receiver 1, generally speaking, but he has no quarterback. There is going to be a quarterback in the game, but we saw what happened against the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I actually need to look at my roster and see if I have another option. It might be choosing, like, in this particular league, it might be choosing, like, Cole Beasley versus Amari Cooper, which I think is actually a pretty tough choice because Beasley will be facing Seattle, so that should be a lot of passing in that game.
It brings up an important point, Dan, and that's injuries also factor into it. We've talked about the matchup as with like the defense you're playing against. If you're playing against a really good run defense and you have a lower end, maybe a middle running back 2 going up against that, do you play him? But also, what if it's like the Raiders for the past few weeks who've been missing 3 or 4 offensive linemen because of COVID or other related injuries, and Josh Jacobs maybe isn't performing as well? How do you adjust the value of him when you're doing this? I think that becomes pretty important as well.
I mean, I think you guys are on the right track. I think weather is a big determination, especially if it's snowing and it's bad weather. Remember, the DBs have to cover. They slip and fall also, just not the wide receivers. So it's a nightmare for defenses also. But usually the running game gets like 70% of the calls during snow games. They don't throw as much. It's a fact. Ross the Boss knows this. It's a fact. So if you have a running back that's starting in a snow game, start him, obviously. I'm not a big fan of playing players that are receivers when it's like under 20 degrees. I just feel it's hard to catch the ball. The quarterback has a tough time throwing the ball. But that's my rule. That's what I do. And of course, like the Cowboys, it's a great example. They have 3 great receivers and they have no quarterback. So I would be very, very hesitant starting Cooper or even Gallup or even Lamb on that fact.
Yeah, so. And I wanted to say, wide receivers, I think, and tight ends for that matter, their values can change throughout the season depending on whether their quarterback is hitting on all cylinders or their quarterback is injured.
Exactly.
So you got to watch out for that.
Yeah, I think that's a bigger factor definitely than weather. And, I think with weather, to me, the thing that's most concerning is high winds, which we saw a lot of this last weekend. That can really affect the passing game. It can really affect the kicking game as well. But the other thing I want to say about matchups is, if you're going to factor matchups in, you need to actually understand what you're looking at. So, you can look at like the amount of fantasy points allowed to different positions by different defenses, and that helps you some. But you also need to look at trends. You need to look at, is a defense playing a lot better lately than they were earlier in the season, or vice versa. And then I also like to look at the specific players that have gone against certain defenses. I think that's particularly true if you look at like tight ends, for example. That's a position where I almost don't factor matchups in at all, because the reality is a lot of the defenses that have the best numbers against tight ends just haven't happened to face Travis Kelce or George Kittle or Darren Waller or Mark Andrews or any of those top guys. So their numbers look great, but that's just because they face teams that don't throw the ball to their tight end. So, that in that sense, the numbers can be misleading about matchups sometimes.
And another
I
thing
love
that's
that
important
point.
to note, on most of the websites that host these leagues, they list in the parentheses before the matchup like where the defense they're playing ranks. But that's a very kind of superficial number. There are statistics all over the web if you do research with regards to getting the deeper level numbers, how they do against certain types of offenses, how they do against the run, how they do against the pass, how they do against a slot receiver versus an X receiver. You can get it if you're willing to do the work and look for it. And it can be the difference in assigning appropriate value when it comes to those players on your roster who may be kind of similar in talent level or in value on a week-to-week basis.
So I totally agree with that, but I did want to circle back to what Andrew was saying about the fact that those numbers can be even more skewed. This goes along with your point, Kasey, but those numbers can be even more skewed. So I was Andrew and I were working on a keeper trade, and I was looking at James Robinson. And if you look at his numbers, it looks like he faced all easy defenses, and all of the defenses coming up are hard. But when I really thought about it, he is the one who made those defenses look like they're easy. He destroyed them. So you have to factor that in, and I think that's a key point that I've not really heard talked about very much.
Yeah, and
you agree, Ross?
And to go back to Kasey's point real quick about the stats. I mean, there's so many stats out there. I like to look at like total rushing yards allowed for defenses, total passing yards allowed, big picture stats like that. People like to dig in even deeper and look at like shutdown corners. What's the matchups going to be?
Or air yards.
Receivers. Air yards. Yeah.
You taught me about air yards.
Metrics that you should look at, but that's not about matchups as much as just usage, which again is my number one thing I think is most important. But I will say about like these. Sometimes I get all these questions on Twitter all the time of people freaking out because their wide receiver is going to be shadowed by James Bradbury or something like that. And it's like there are times where that is a factor, but we have to also be comfortable about not knowing things. We don't know. Sometimes those shutdown corners really do shut down the receiver, but sometimes the receiver lights them up. I look at it more in the category of like same thing as with weather, or same thing as with players that are playing at less than 100% health. Like these can go either way, and it can be extreme. Sometimes you overthink it and you sit a guy and they end up exploding because they're a good player. So we have to be comfortable with the uncertainty of all this, which is part of the game.
So to conclude this, start your best players, go with your instinct, and don't let the matchups freak you out. I know people like to say, oh, he's facing this guy, he's facing this guy, as this guy can shut him down. But you know what? If you have a feeling that your player is going to have a great week, start him. That's what I do.
That's where usage does have overlap with this, because if the usage is really great and the matchup is bad, I think usage is almost always going to trump the matchup, but it's not always true. But the other thing really is don't overthink these things.
Don't overthink. Look at the over-under on the game too. If it's a high over-under, play that player in that game. I do that also. I always look at over-unders on games.
And guys who have like really heavy usage, who are going to see like 20 plus touches, like running backs are going to see 20 plus touches every week. I mean, even if they have a bad matchup, it might limit their ceiling. Like maybe they're not going to go off for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they're just going to grind their way to a decent fantasy performance anyway. They still are going to have a high floor just because of that usage. So that's why usage is reigns supreme.
Let me say one more thing.
Unless it's a Jet or Dallas Cowboy, then
yeah,
bets are off.
No, I mean, the Cowboys now have really sunk almost to the level of the Jets at the moment. Maybe they're even below it.
I mean, Elliott's value. I mean, Andrew, in all seriousness, are you going to take Elliott in the top 10 this week coming up?
No, I don't think so.
It's unbelievable. I would never think
their season has taken such a turn. Let me make one more point about this.
It's a third pick in the draft.
Let me make one more point about this. I think one thing that has often helped me is to play it like poker. You got to play it right. You got to play the right hand. So Boston Scott was starting, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should sit him for J.K. Dobbins. I thought J.K. Dobbins was going to have a bigger game, but that would have been a silly play. It turns out I was right, but it would have been a silly play.
That's your instinct. That's what I'm telling you. Go with your instinct. Don't listen to these fools. Don't listen to Andrew. Don't listen to Kasey. Don't listen to Dan. Listen to yourself.
Especially don't listen to Dan.
And to use your poker analogy.
What if Dan is yourself, though?
Oh, yeah, it's true. I guess
that's the problem I have. It's terrible. Problem,
yeah. And to go with your poker analogy, the idea is to get all your money in the pot when you have the best chance of winning. But the best chance of winning might be only 60%, which means 40% of the time you have to be comfortable with losing. You're never going to make the right. You're even when you make the right call every time, it's not going to turn out the way you want it to every time, and you have to be comfortable with that week to week. It's just the way it works. That's
you
why
can't live in the
so
past,
difficult.
you know. Yeah, you can't look back and be like, oh, I should have started this other guy, because every week that's going to happen. There's going to be someone on your bench that outscores someone in your starting lineup. So that's
Dan and I
recipe for hating yourself.
Dan and I, when we were in graduate school, we had a little poker game that we would play eventually, and there's a game called Guts, where everybody would have to hold two cards out, kind of in front of them like this, and then 1, 2, 3 drop.
I used to play that. I played that game too.
And we always had the one guy in the group who said, man, because everybody dropped, man, if I didn't drop, I would have won that hand. And it's like, yeah, but your card sucked. So you still made the right play. You just could have won if you could have read everybody else's mind. It's just, you make the best play for your team. It works most of the time if you make the best play, but sometimes it's just not going to work.
Now, let me say this. You definitely can't live in the past, but if you're me and you're playing fantasy football and it's Sunday and it's past 3 p.m., you also can't live in the present. It's just kind of the way it is.
Just live in the future.
But no, it's actually, you know what? It's getting better. I'm sharpening my skills, and I think it has something to do with you guys. And when we get to baseball, you'll see my skills really. Yes. Okay. I hope I don't have to
just
pay
saw
for
the
that.
Beatles sign behind you and inspired me.
Nice. Okay, guys. Up next, we have the legendary comic Gabriel Iglesias joining us, and I cannot wait to get to that interview.
I got him right
there.
Here
He is, the bobblehead, right there.
He's ready to.
He's larger in person.
We have the real one too, right?
Yeah.
No, it's just this
Yep.
is it.
Will he
This
jiggle?
is what we have. This is the interview. So, Gabriel, tell us about your new stand-up special.
That and more coming up next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss. I have a great interview today. I'm so excited. He's one of my favorite comedians. He's a very funny comic. He has a show Nickelodeon that's on Thursday night at 7 o'clock called Unleashed. He also has a show on Netflix, which I actually enjoy watching, and that's called Mr. Iglesias. Let's welcome Gabriel Iglesias. Gabriel, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. That's right. I'm anywhere. I'm everywhere. Dude. This is awesome to be talking to you again. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I actually met you years ago in the comedy clubs, and it's great to see you. Great to see how successful you are. You haven't changed a bit, except your haircut, but we'll talk about that later. Gabriel, let's talk. I mean, I know it's tough for you comics because there's no clubs or stadiums that you play now that are open for you to do stand-up. How's that affecting you?
Well, being on the road for as long as I have been, I've never really took any breaks. So this has been the longest unwanted but necessary vacation I've ever taken. I want to say I'm on 8 months now without touching a stage. And I had to learn a lot about myself. First of all, I caught up on a lot of sleep that I didn't know I needed over the years. All my bags, everything went away. Look at this complexion. That's from all the sleep I'm getting.
Beautiful.
But I have been getting into other projects and stuff, but I do miss the stage very much.
Do you still have the same bus driver that I saw you talk about? I think his name's Dave.
Dave, yeah, he actually he's always been on payroll. I take really good care of him. Right now that he's not driving the bus, he's actually working at my warehouse. I have a merch line, and I have people that run the building and stuff. And so he's one of the guys that's helping to keep the merch moving along.
You got to take care of him.
I actually have your bobblehead right next to me. Gabe, you also I worked for Leno for so many years, and I know you have a car collection. Tell us about it.
Well, the car collection actually came from, Leno didn't give me the car collection, but he gave me the idea. I went to go visit him at his car. I don't even know what you want to call it. Is it a museum?
It's a museum of cars. That's what I call it.
It's Peterson Museum Light. If you've never been there or never seen it on TV, it is something to be around. It's incredible. And he told me, he goes, well, what do you get into? And I'm like, well, I got a Chevy. And he's like, well, what are you doing with your money and stuff? And he basically told me that all of his cars are just, he has fun with his investments. People invest in stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, this or that. But he says, hey man, he goes, every time I buy one of these cars, it goes up in value. And so I bought one, which is a Volkswagen bus. And I just started multiplying it, and I have never sold them, but if I did, I would definitely not lose. So I have been enjoying my investment.
Good for you. I'm happy you have like something you enjoy that you do with your money instead of just putting in the bank or spending it on
family members. Can I borrow some money? Oh man, that's the worst. When they tell you can I borrow it, and then you ask for it baback, and they're like, "What? I thought it was
No, Dave, you got to say it right. Hey, bro, can I borrow some money, bro? You know what I'm imitating, right? Who calls you bro all the time?
You got to put some more bass behind it, bro.
Oh, that's it. You got it down.
Who is it? I'm totally lost.
It's a comic that we both know named Willie Barcena, and he's very funny comic. He's been on the Tonight Show a million times, and Gabe used to work with him all the time.
But you got to deepen your voice.
Yeah, Gabe does it better than me. Gabe, tell me about your new show, Unleashed on Nickelodeon.
Well, it's basically like America's Got Talent, but with nothing but animals. So I get to host the show, and it's just it's a zoo that's on fire. So that doesn't sound right, but it's
that sounds like a real problem.
Expect a call from PETA. Here we go. No, it's a fun animal show. I mean, just talented animals. You name it, dogs, cats. We had vultures and chickens. At one point, there's a squirrel water skiing. There's just, it's so much randomness, and it's Nickelodeon, and so it's just a really, really fun show. I'm really happy that we were able to do the show, especially during the pandemic, and it's doing very well. The show is now the #1 show on Nickelodeon, so I'm very excited about that because that means I'm going to be getting a phone call pretty soon.
This is a total aside, but what does a talented vulture do? I need to know this.
Well, basically, they would guide the vulture.
Sounds scary.
Well, vultures are scary no matter what. If you've never been around a vulture, it is a very large bird, and it has a huge wingspan. And so just imagine this just giant animal right there, and they're guiding it. They're like, hey, go over there. They'd send it around the room, bouncing around. Basically, he'd fly to different spots every time there's food waiting. Or if they need them, open your wings, hey, say hi. And little things like that. I mean, it's not like the bird singing or anything, but the fact that there's a vulture.
Do you own any animals? Are you a dog guy, a cat guy? Or?
I'm definitely a dog guy. I got 2 dogs myself. They're always near me, and they're always watching my every move.
That's great. That's great.
I had cats, and cats are very independent. They don't need me, kind of like my ex. They do their own thing, and, I'm always in the way. So I needed an animal that needed me, and so dogs it is.
That's great. And then Mr. Iglesias, it's the 3rd season, correct? In the premieres in December?
It's the most confusing thing. It's season 2, but part 3. So
okay, I got it. Okay.
TV gets twisted, and Netflix does it twisted even more. So they took the season and then they just cut it in half, and they made a part 1 and a part 2 versus just giving everybody the whole thing at once.
Now I'm having Sherry Shepard on next week. So, and I know she's on the show with you.
Yes.
How's she to work with? She started at the Improv also, just so you know.
Sherry and I used to do stand-up 20 some odd years ago together. We would do all these small rooms, and she'll tell you a story about how I gave her a ride home one time. So we go way, way back.
This doesn't sound good.
Hey.
Dave's very respectful. He was
I
raised
will
right.
I know.
Share the story.
Well, actually,
Thank
this
you,
is one of
Gabriel.
the things. This is the one of the things that I love about you is that you're I think what's called like a clean comic. You try to keep it pretty clean a lot of the time. That's what I know of you.
I try to keep it friendly. So, I mean, when they say, clean or squeaky clean, I mean, it's
No, non-divisive.
I ride that line. So, I mean, I try not to
Yeah.
cut, but sometimes I do. I try to avoid certain things, like I try to avoid politics, religion, and sports during my show because it divides people. Now, clearly, if you guys want to talk sports, I'll yell Dodgers all day. But
I want to talk sports. I was at the World Series. I went to the 6th game. I was in Dallas. I saw the Dodgers win it in person. No, I did not talk to Justin Turner. I did not hug him. Did not take a shower with him. I did not hang out
That's
with him.
his
So no
story.
worries.
That's his
No
story.
worries on that. But I know you're a big Dodger fan. How happy were you that they won?
you know what? It's one of those things where I wish I could have been at the game. I got to go to other World Series in the past with the Dodgers, and to be there, it's a whole different experience. And I'm sure you felt it to actually be part of it. One of the 10,000 people that were allowed to be there. But yeah, I was excited. I got choked up. It was emotional. I got some messages from friends that were either kids when they went to the '88 World Series and they were there with their dads or with their brothers or hanging out with friends. And they're like, man, I wish my father was alive to see this. It's incredible. It finally happened. And so we thought we were on a streak of losing, man. Like, we lose one more World Series and we're the new Buffalo Bills. So I was like,
Yeah, you don't want to have that on your resume.
I know you're a Clipper. I've seen you at Clipper games. I've seen you and I seen each other at Clipper games. So I'm a Clipper fan. I don't know if you're a Laker fan, but I'm going to ask you.
This game because I got free tickets. I got free tickets and great
That's
seats.
how you go to the Clippers game.
Hey, you know what? If they offer you courtside seats and you get VIP access to the back room or all
That's
that,
where I was. I was with you. That was great.
you say yes and thank you, and I will happily wear the Clippers. Yeah.
Let's talk football. I know you grew up in Southern California. Who's your team? I don't know if you're a Raider guy, Rams guy, Charger guy. I know you spent some time in down south. I'm curious to see what team you like.
Well, I was born in San Diego, and so people automatically, went, oh, hey, you're a Chargers fan. I'm like, no. I grew up in San Diego, and then I moved north until I got to Long Beach. But, growing up, it was one of those things. Are you Rams? Are you Raiders? Are you Cowboys? Are you Steelers? You're Mexican. You automatically get put in one of those categories. Cowboy fan, Raider fan. Some of them Niner fans. I got basically jumped into the Raiders. So.
Well, it's better than Dallas. Dallas is like pathetic right now.
I've never been I'm not going to say that I don't like the Cowboys, but I've never been a diehard fan. I've never worn a Cowboys shirt or a hat or been like, go Cowboys. They just, that just wasn't my team. I've been more of a Raider fan for a while, but I do, I am a fan of individual players. Like I'm a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers. I'm a fan of Tom Brady. Some people hate on him. I think, wow, I'm a fan
He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Best who ever played. Tom Brady. You may hate him, but got to give him respect. 43 years old and he's playing that kind of football.
Respect on that name.
Yeah, exactly. So do you watch football you sit down and watch football on Sunday, or are you one of these guys that likes to watch football?
I usually catch the second half of the day. I don't like waking up early on Sundays. So I'll wake up usually right around third or fourth quarter of the first round of the games. And then I'm definitely around for the afternoon.
Oh, that's
That's
great.
when your dogs allow you to watch?
Yeah. Oh, and I wasn't kidding. Like, this is how close my dog. One of my dogs is right behind me. He likes to sit in the chair that I'm sitting in, but he wants to feel my ass and the chair compressing him.
Your dog loves you.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why.
Oh, there.
Oh, cute.
Look at that one.
Look at that.
That's adorable.
So Gabe, you have a lot of time. COVID's keeping you home. What shows are you watching on Netflix? I know you watch your own show, but is there something you're watching? Is there something that I should be aware of?
You know what show I saw the other day that really you got to really pay attention. It's a show called Killer Rate. It's a docuseries called Killer Ratings. It's about a guy who basically had his own television show in Brazil about 15 years ago. And the show was like a variety show, and he was always helping people. He was like a Brazilian Oprah. So imagine a show like that, but it also has entertainment. So there's singing and dancing and segments where they go live to the streets. Well, anytime any breaking news happened in Brazil, they would go live to the streets. And usually it was a murder. Something would happen. And it's crazy to have a variety show and then let's cut to this murder scene. But he was the king of having the exclusives. And so every time they'd cut to a scene, something happening in the streets, he would always have the exclusives. He was always the first guy on the scene. Well, the reason he was the first guy on the scene is because he was a crime lord, and he would actually orchestrate these killings for his ratings on his TV show.
Oh, so he knew when they were coming.
Oh yeah, he knew they were coming because he was setting them up. So,
and this is a true story?
The true story. So yeah, check it out on Netflix. It's called Killer Ratings. It is unfortunately in Portuguese, so get ready to do a lot of reading.
A lot of reading. Now, maybe you could do that with your stand-up. Like you can have like a murder like happen somewhere in the audience, and then you can get the exclusive. And you'll see the talk of the stand-up.
I like that idea. I mean, he's already like center stage. Everybody's paying attention to him, and then he sets up something so that people will pay attention to him.
Oh, it gets more gangster than that. The guy runs for public office and wins.
And wins.
Yeah.
People like that often win.
Everything I just told you is episode 1. You got to see the whole thing. It's called Killer Ratings.
I'm gonna watch it, Gabriel. You know what? Thanks for coming on, pal. You're an old friend. Great to see you. I can't wait to see you on stage again. You better have new material because you had 8 months to write it. So I expect you to have new stuff. You better have a whole bunch of new stuff.
I
think the pandemic's probably good for material, but maybe not. I don't know.
Can I just take this moment to say that, I've been doing this now for this is my 24 years now. And now that I'm, where I'm at in my career, I have people coming out the woodwork saying how detrimental they were to the success of my career. And, I did this for him and I helped him here and I did this for him and I did this and I did that. All the people who really didn't really have that much of an impact on my career are the ones raising their hands. And the people who really did make a difference and really did give me an opportunity and really were there for me in the beginning are the ones that are quiet. And so I would just take this moment to acknowledge you, Ross, for being.
Thank you. Means a lot, Gabriel. And you did all the work.
And I don't think you get enough credit. And I just wanted to say thank you because you were putting up with my original manager. We won't name names, and that in itself took a lot. So, and just over the years, you were always a class act, and I just want to say thank you. And
you're very welcome. And to give you a little praise, put Last Comic Standing, you destroyed. You were the talk of the show. Tonight's show, you never had a bad set. Always got a standing ovation, and all the hard work you do, you deserve everything you have. But thanks for coming on. We'll have you on again, maybe in a few months. You never know. But, pal, it's great seeing you. I'm glad you're doing well. And it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you. If I write a book, you'll be in it, buddy. All good things.
Thank you, sir. Thank God, good things. I always hear bad things about Ross the Boss. At least some good things are coming out now.
Really good things. Really good.
Okay, good seeing you, Gabriel. Thank you.
It's time for Take Your Pick. Okay, guys, how did we do last week? This is the time of the week where I always forget who I even picked.
Well, I did terrible. I forgot to take the advice we just gave everybody on 1st and 10. I took Nelson Aguilar for the Las Vegas Raiders playing in Cleveland in 50-mile-an-hour winds with cold weather. So he took the big old.
Oh my God, was that last week?
Yeah, it felt so. With
that
the
feels
election
like a long
this week,
time ago.
everything felt long. So, but yeah, that was just last week. So I unfortunately did not lead the viewer in the right direction.
And I did slightly less terrible than Kasey, where I was promoting AJ Green. I thought he would have his third great game in a row, but he didn't. He went 2 for 19. So.
Okay, and Ross, I'll let you bat cleanup. I'm going to say that I also went in the same game. I went with Jarvis Landry, thinking Odell Beckham's out, Baker Mayfield's on a roll now, and then the weather came in, and I was like, no, give me that back. But it really didn't work out very well. I think he got about 50 yards, but it was not particularly good.
Well, I had this guy Devin Cook, 5 touchdowns, 600 yards. He was unbelievable. I was killing. No, I'm just kidding. I had T.Y. Hilton. He had 2 catches, 9 yards. Actually, horrible for me. It's my first clunker of the year. But in gambling, I had the Bengals, Steelers, and Eagles, which were 3-0. Those were my picks with teams, but I lost an over-under bet. But that doesn't matter. But I'm on fire when it comes to betting on the teams.
Wait, so we're gonna make our picks, but it sounds like Jarvis Landry may have been the pick of the litter. Well, we're gonna see when we bring in Fantasy Pros expert Andrew
Yeah, I
Seifer.
have bad
But
news
first,
for you on that one, Dan.
Yeah, no.
oh God, I don't remember what it was. But first, we're gonna make our picks for the week. Lauren, would you like to get us started?
Sure.
I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but
No,
okay.
that's all right. I am going to switch it up this week. I'm going to go with a quarterback. I'm going to go with Derek Carr. He has outperformed expectations this season and has been playing pretty well. In weeks 2 through 7, he's averaged 297 yards, and he's had multiple touchdowns, or at least 2 touchdowns in each game. And this week he gets the Chargers, who have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. I think this is a divisional game that should be fun to watch. I think it'll be high scoring, and I think it will allow for a lot of fantasy goodness for Carr this week.
When I looked at the quarterbacks, he was the one that jumped out at me too. But I did not go with a quarterback. I'm going to go ahead and jump in with Antonio Brown. He was ranked, I think, 32nd in wide receivers.
He was one of mine too.
That's
I like
why
that
I jumped
pick.
in. That's why I jumped
Cross
in.
it off.
Well, New Orleans and Tampa Bay, I just think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. And obviously, Antonio Brown is capable of putting up a lot. The question is his role. I'm betting that his role will at least be decent, and he's going to perform.
And you forgot the most important fact. He's Tom Brady's roommate. He lives with Tom Brady. You don't think he's going to throw to his roommate? Come on. Of course, it's a great
And he's
pick.
the shiny new
I don't
toy.
know.
They want to
Casey,
show him off.
Casey was once my roommate, but it is true. I threw
Yeah,
him
but you
over.
guys, you guys aren't really friends. I know that. So, is it my turn yet? Can I go
for it.
before Casey?
Yeah, you go for it.
I
take the
also
floor,
like
Ross.
Antonio Brown. I'm taking the Detroit Lion Marvin Davis.
Jones.
No, Jones, but
Marvin Jones,
Jr.
excuse me. Marvin Davis is a producer. Marvin Jones. I love Marvin Jones. I feel like he's the number 1 receiver now in Detroit. Stafford's going to be throwing the ball a lot. He's the number 1 guy. I feel he's going to have 2 touchdowns. This is my prediction. 2 touchdowns, 86 yards. You heard it from me first. I'm Ross the Boss. Don't take Cooper Rush, whatever you do. That's my one suggestion. Don't take him. Okay, go.
All right.
Wait, is
I'm
Stafford
easy.
going to be playing, though?
I don't know. Does it matter? Are you really going to take him? Is he going to take a guy that's going to get destroyed?
I'm going to take a running back this week. I'm going to go with Wayne Gallman of the New York Giants. He's going against the Redskins, who are not
Team
a
of
very good
Washington.
run defense.
They're not called the
I'm
Redskins.
sorry,
It's
the Washington football
Washington team.
I apologize. Old habits die hard. They've been giving up 100 yards per game at home. The Giants are playing a little better these days on offense, and Gallman seems to be the most explosive in that backfield. He got into the end zone last week. I expect him to get a good chunk of yards and find the end zone again this week.
If Freeman doesn't play, I love that pick. I don't know. He's questionable, just so you know.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to bring in Fantasy Pros expert Andrew Seifer to find out how he did last week
Oh, he
and
crushed us.
who he he is the resident expert. But
Yes, he
Andrew,
is.
who did you have last week? Can you remind us? I'm sure you've been dying to. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm too modest for that. I had Zack Moss. You may have heard about his game last week. He had,
that's right. Yeah.
81 yards and not 1, but 2 touchdowns. So it pretty much worked out the way I thought it would in terms of him reemerging as the goal line back there for the Bills. And,
This is disgusting.
Taking the
Move on.
lion's share of the committee as well. Okay, well, you'll be happier to know, Dan, that I also wanted to say Antonio Brown. So you got in ahead of all of us. So congratulations. I will point out the Saints have given up the most passing touchdowns per game of any team in the league. So,
I saw that too.
I think that will be his.
And he's his
welcome
roommate.
gift
He rooms
from
with the
Tom
guy.
Brady.
He lives with the guy. He sees the guy every day.
Exactly. So I will take it another direction. So going on the same recipe as my Zack Moss pick, which is a running back who is emerging in a backfield who I touted a lot on our waiver wire show. So it worked for Zack Moss. I think it's also going to work for Jordan Wilkins with the Colts, who you guys know I was raving about on the waiver wire show. We don't know exactly how it's going to go down. I mean, technically they're still calling Taylor the starter, Jonathan Taylor, but he's really been just completely outproduced by Jordan Wilkins, both in terms of missed tackle rate, yards after contact, all these metrics.
Is he being called the starter
but do you
in the way
understand?
the
He's playing against
closers
the
are called the
Baltimore
closer?
defense. He's playing against Baltimore.
Yeah, I do understand that, Ross.
It's a
And
horrible
actually,
start.
you might be
Against
surprised.
Baltimore?
You might be surprised. You might be surprised to learn, Ross, that the last 5 running backs that have faced Baltimore have all finished as top 24 running backs in fantasy. So you might need to update your takes there a little bit. They're a good defense, but they're not a must-avoid defense. So if he gets the work, I think he can finish as a top 24 running back. I'm digging deep here. He's ranked 38th in the Fantasy Pros rankings, but I love him as an upside RB3 flex kind of player who could potentially give you a nice
Okay,
hit.
Jones against Wilkins. Here we go.
Yep. Listen,
remember we got Houston defense against Jake Luton.
I like him. I like the Oregon State Beaver. I love that guy.
Yeah, I like him.
All
too.
right.
We'll see what
Listen,
happens.
Andrew, since you shamed you didn't actually
Get
shame
rid
us
of
in your
him.
words, but in your performance, just get out of here. All right. No, thank you.
Bye,
You did
guys.
Bye,
great.
Have fun.
Andrew.
Okay, guys, we're going to talk about the games with the spread. The first game we're looking at is Seattle at Buffalo. We've got Seattle -2. Who you got?
Ross
who
the
are the
boss.
players to
First of
play?
all,
Yeah.
I'm taking Seattle. I just feel that Russell Wilson's going to have a huge game against that Buffalo defense. Has been giving up a lot of yards. Buffalo's been up and down with the offense. They have not been consistent in the game. I love Seattle, even though they don't have a real running back. I don't care. Take Seattle if you're betting on it. Fantasy wise, God, Zack Moss, like he said, I don't take Singletary. Don't start him anymore. Waive Singletary. But
I think like Beasley and I think Beasley is the wide receiver to go with on the Bills. I would
Stephon
be
Diggs
starting
is hard to bet against too. In that
Diggs is top
especially
5.
against
I
Seattle.
think you're right. I love Diggs.
I was talking about the fringe guys.
Diggs is
Oh,
top
okay.
5. You're right. Lauren,
and
who
I
do you
think
like?
Well, I was going to say, you're always going to start. I like Seattle as well, and you're always going to start your regulars in Seattle. But I think between Metcalf and Lockett, I think this matchup really, Lockett has a better matchup because he's playing in the slot, and that's where receivers are accumulating, the most yards against Buffalo this season. So I would lean Lockett a little bit over Metcalf this week. But
Bring in the knowledge. Okay, guys. Chicago at Tennessee. We got Tennessee -6.
I'm a big fan of Allen Robinson in this. Obviously, you have your big players who you're going to play. You're going to play Tannehill. You're going to play Henry. You're going to play A.J. Brown. You're going to play, I think, Allen Robinson there too. I'm not a huge fan of Montgomery. I don't know if he'll do anything against Tennessee, although Tennessee has been susceptible to the run a little bit this year. I'm not a huge Nick Foles fan, but this could be a really high-scoring game, so there could just be those numbers that just accumulate because he's throwing the ball so much.
do you think Jonnu Smith will have a bounce back? We thought he would last week, and he didn't.
Certainly could. I mean, he's certainly talented enough, and he does well in the play-action game with Derrick Henry, so they can work him in if they want to. It depends on the
There's
game.
one thing I know for sure about whether Jonnu Smith will have a breakout game.
Here it goes. Is he
comeback
playing
game.
against you this weekend?
That's a very good guess based on the things that I say. I'm just going to say that he might.
Okay.
And that's my
He
insight.
might. All right.
All right, we're going to go
Well,
with
hold on. And
Ross.
the
Yeah,
boss,
you didn't get to talk.
Ross the
I almost
boss
shut
is
you out.
taking Tennessee and the under in that game, and everything that Lauren and Kasey said, I agree with. Nothing else to talk about.
You don't agree with me that Jonnu Smith might have a good game?
No, I don't think
All right.
I don't think he'll have
50-50.
over 20 yards.
I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying he might.
No,
Come
he's
on.
not doing it. He's-
All right, Las Vegas
Joke.
at the LA Chargers. LA Chargers favored by 1.5 points.
I
They're gonna
think
kick an
it's
extra
a
point and a
fun
half.
game. I'm looking forward to watching this game. It's a good, divisional game that I think should be fun to watch. I think both quarterbacks are outproducing their expectations on the season, and they've both been really great to watch. I think, you can run against the Raiders, so I think Jackson, should have a good day. But you're starting everyone. I could, Waller.
Jacobs.
I think this is the week you can go back to Nelson Aguilar, though. I think,
I know, because I didn't
Kasey
pick him this week. He'll do well.
I know it was last week. I think you were a little bit too early on that, but I think that and Mike Williams, it's always Keenan Allen, but I think all the wide receivers in this game are good to go. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Let me tell you something about the Chargers. they've had over 16-point leads the past 4 games in a row. 16-point leads, 4 games in a row, NFL record. They lost every game. They gave up so many points. I cannot bet the Chargers. I'm taking the Raiders. I think Jacobs is going to be huge. I think Carr's going to be great. As much as I like the Chargers and I want them to win, it's such a division rival game, but the Raiders are just playing better football. Justin Herbert should have close to 400 yards though, but the over-under in this game, take the over also. That's Ross the Boss.
Yeah, and they both have good tight ends, so you can play both of the tight ends in this game too with Waller and Hunter Henry.
Henry, I love Hunter Henry.
Yeah, so
hasn't Hunter Henry been really underperforming, or has he picked it up lately?
But he has a cool name though. You got to admit that.
Yeah,
jeez.
I mean,
he has a cool name. It's
tight
true.
ends.
He might have a good game.
Tight ends feel like a crapshoot every time, so there's very few that you can count on.
Let's talk about the Old Age Bowl. New Orleans at Tampa Bay. It's Tampa Bay -4. The quarterbacks put together are 84 years old or something like that. And maybe not that old. So there's nothing against that. I'm 46.
It's
no
close,
problem
actually,
with it, but
your math.
It is. All right. So, I mean, obviously I shouldn't say obviously you're starting Breeze and Brady. I think they're both very start-worthy in this game.
Well, I mean, they played the first game of the season was that matchup in New Orleans. As we remember, New Orleans won. Drew Brees is questionable. I don't know if you saw that on the injury report, but he's questionable.
He missed the second day of practice or something.
Yeah, today. But I'm just saying he's questionable. She's not 100%. So Ross the Boss, I'm taking Tampa Bay in that game. I don't know the over-under I'm kind of scared about. I don't think New Orleans' defense can keep up with Tampa Bay's defense. I would start the Tampa Bay defense. I would start Antonio Brown. I would start just the usual suspects, Evans. I would start all those guys. Even Miller, I would start on Tampa Bay. And then
what about Ronald Jones?
See, I was going to talk about that.
That's
the running game in Tampa Bay is so frustrating because I think Jones is the more talented of the two backs. But then last week against the Giants, he makes that fumble early in the game, and Arians I think punishes him by keeping him on the sidelines the whole time. And you see Leonard Fournette, who just looks a little slow and not all that agile. So I would love if I could guarantee Ronald Jones was going to catch a few passes and get 15-plus touches in the game, but you just can't count on it with the way
I know
they manage their game on the fly.
I saw him on the Fantasy Pros list, like lower down, and I was like, "What is he doing here?"
Yeah, I said too. And New Orleans is pretty good against the run, by the way. So that's another reason I think he was low on their list, but more so it's just the unpredictability.
All right, now we're going to squeeze one last game in here very quickly, and we'll go to Ross about this just in terms of the betting because there's not a whole lot to talk about fantasy-wise. I don't think.
What is it?
New England at the New York Jets. New England favored by 7. I think they should manage to cover the spread, but the question is how good.
No, we're going to the Jets.
I would take the Jets.
Are motivated.
The Jets want to win a game this year. They're motivated. The Patriots are on the way down. They don't know how to handle defeat. I like the Jets. I'll take the points. The Pats will win, but not going to win by more than 5 or 6 points. So Ross the Boss is taking the Jets. You heard it from me first.
Patriots will win by 14. You'll see.
You're insane. They can't score 14 points in 5 games. They're horrible.
They can on defense.
I nearly took Michael Perrine as my sleeper because I think he could put up a big game against
Florida
the Patriots
State
because they're terrible against the run.
I love Michael Perrine. And remember, I have another stat for you guys. If you're gambling out there, and I've done this every week, the Cowboys are 0-8 against the spread this year. Just keep betting against the Cowboys. You'll be a winner. Trust me.
Well, and also,
all right, guys. No!
Are you shutting the door on me? Are we done?
No, let her talk.
No, absolutely not. Would I ever shut the door on you? I usually beg you to come back.
It's always open.
Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is I feel like week in and week out, we talk about how we don't want any of the Patriots. And you don't, but I think you do. This is a game where you want to keep your eye on Damian Harris and Jacoby Myers because you might see signs of life with them. And they, I think Jacoby Myers was a popular waiver wire ad this week, and he's seeing the targets. I don't know if it's necessarily going to translate into anything, but it's worth keeping an eye on.
This will be the Jets' first win of the season against the Patriots. You heard it from me.
I don't think it's happening, but
okay.
All right, we'll see.
Kasey and I will show you.
Up next, we have the end of the second round of Monster Madness, and we are joined by the very funny comedian, Gabriel, a.k.a. Fluffy Iglesias. But first, it's Ross's rant. All right, Ross, you only have 33 seconds today. Go.
Hi, I'm Ross the Boss. Today, we're talking about Russell Wilson. He spends $1 million a year on his body alone. $1 million. You know why? Because he wants to play football until he's 45 years old. So he has 2 chefs, a physical therapist, a physical trainer, and he has a hydrotherapy machine that he goes in to rest his body every day. He works out 363 days a year. He doesn't work out on Thanksgiving or Christmas. He wants to play till he's 45, which is, I think, is crazy. He has 2 kids, a beautiful wife. Why does he want to keep playing? Because he's going to get hurt. He won't be physically fit when he's 45. He should quit when he's around 35, 36. But that's Ross the Boss. I love talking sports with you.
Welcome to Monster Madness. We have a very special guest along with Kasey Scheinvold and Ross the Boss. We have Gabriel Iglesias. I said that completely wrong. Gabriel Iglesias. He's just a massive talent and comic for 23, 24 years. And we get to discuss the heroes and villains bracket of the East bracket. Now, Gabriel, the way this works, it's like the March Madness tournament in basketball. So you got seeds. The number 1 seed in the East bracket is the Emperor from Star Wars. If you're not familiar with anybody, we'll describe him to you. The Emperor is facing off against Wolverine. So we're going to talk about who wins there. Now, seriously, tell me if you need to be, up to speed on it.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so the Emperor versus Wolverine. This is a vote. It's a 4-person vote. If it's a 2-2 tie, we bring in a tiebreaker. One of our team members comes on. So, would you like to start, or you want to defer?
I'll defer.
All right, Kasey, you get us started. The Emperor versus Wolverine.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm going to vote for the underdog in this one. I think Wolverine is just kind of savage, and because he recovers so quickly, he's got those wicked claws coming out of his hands. I think he's just going to slice and dice the Emperor.
What's he going to do with the lightning?
He's going to just take it. He's like the man's man. He can. I mean, I saw the guy take a bullet to the head, and the bullet popped out. So I don't think lightning's going to stop him. He just has to get one blade into him, kind of Darth Vader style, when Darth Vader threw him down the well.
You know what? The fact that the Emperor has the powers that he does, he can totally keep Wolverine at bay. Not to mention the fact that, yes, he can throw lightning, but he could also throw any other objects at him, including throwing Wolverine off a cliff. I just think that Wolverine will never get close enough to inflict any real pain on the Emperor. And if all else fails, he could always call in someone else to get Wolverine from behind.
I totally agree. I also think the lightning hitting the metal of his adamantium skeleton.
It might be conductive. We don't know.
It's not good for Wolverine. Well, Ross, I saw you agreeing. I think this is probably over.
No,
but
you know what? I'm flipping. I'm going with Wolverine. I like his fighting style. I think he's aggressive. I think he's tough. I love the knives he has. He's a killer instinct. The Emperor's an old man. He can't keep up with Wolverine. There's no way he can do it. I'm just gonna
Wolverine. That's fine, but I'm going to make one last point before we bring in our tiebreaker. The Emperor likes to make people angry, and Wolverine is going to play right into his hands. I'm just going to say that. Let's bring our tiebreaker in.
Like this.
He's going to say, "You want this?" All right, we're bringing in our tiebreaker. DC correspondent Lauren Auerbach. Lauren, you go ahead and tell us who wins this battle. Is it the 1 seed or Wolverine is the 8 seed?
As much as I would like Wolverine to win and unleash, his crazy rage and anger, I think the Emperor just has too much power in this one. And I just don't see Wolverine being able to withstand the powers of the Emperor.
You gotta be kidding me.
I know. Listen, I'm very serious. Sorry, Ross. It's the Emperor.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Okay, let's move on. Next.
All right, we're going to move on. Thank you, Lauren. Gabriel, Ross often ends segments with, "Are you serious?" Because he loses every
But he was
time.
Right in this one.
A little bit outdated.
All right, well. All right, listen, we're moving on. Iron Man, the 13 seed. Iron Man, the 13 seed against
Dave
T1000.
loves Iron Man. Just, he loves Iron Man.
All right, well, Iron Man he may be an underdog, but he's facing T1000 from Terminator 2. Do you remember that guy? He could, turn into like a metal. He just was a nasty. Do you remember Terminator 2?
With the ears, right? The guy with the ears, right?
You're around my age, Gabriel. If you don't know, I'm 46, so you're a little younger, I think. Yeah, there you go. Liquid metal versus Iron Man. Again, it looks like you want to start. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about Iron Man. I still say Iron Man all day. Reason being is the fact that it's clear Liquid Metal Man has a couple of flaws. I think that Tony Stark is going to discover those flaws early on and see to it that he capitalizes and make sure that, he gets them right out the gate. Nitrogen clearly is the way to go, and so is other liquid metal. So picking him up, throwing him in a volcano, pushing him into a giant vat of molten whatever, I think is going to be the.
I like this. You know what? I was going to go the other way, but you just convinced me because Tony Stark is a brilliant scientist. He'll figure it out. Also, he's Robert Downey Jr. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is not going to lose.
He's just the coolest guy alive. I think it's Iron Man also. I think, the one thing is you superheat T-1000 and he can't even form a solid person to fight you back. And with all of the different blasters and stuff he has on his suit, he can treat him like he did Ultron and just kind of fry him to a crisp and let him, kind of slither down a drain. It's over.
All right, Ross, you've got the New York vote. That doesn't matter. Go ahead.
I'm taking Iron Man too. I feel that he'll figure a way to beat him. I don't think that T-1000 guy has any brains in his head.
I didn't think T-1000 would go down that easily. Okay, we're moving on to.
I think it's over for that guy. Let's call it a knockout first round. He'll figure a way to beat him.
We can't call the knockout first round because this is the second round. However, we can call the knockout. All right, so now we're moving on to the number 3 seed. Now, Gabriel, this might bring back a blast from the past from your childhood because we are similar ages. Do you remember the Nothing from the Never-Ending Story?
Yes.
Okay, good. The Nothing is facing Rey from the new Star Wars movie. She is the number 6 seed. So we got another Star Wars character in there. We got a lot of Star Wars characters. You can defer or you can start. We always give the guests, carte blanche.
I think I'll start. The Nothing, I mean, it's almost like it's very much David versus Goliath in this one, because the Nothing is just an abundance of negative energy and bad weather and just chaos, and there's no way to really fight it. How are you going to fight something that's technically not there, but there? You can't fight an earthquake or a tornado. It's just, how do you combat that? I mean, you can try to will it away, but I think Ray's toast.
Ross, let's give Ross a chance. He's not even able to comment yet. Go ahead, Ross.
The Nothing, it's like Gabriel, exactly what he said. The Nothing just takes people's energy and destroys
it. Turns everything into nothing. I mean, I think the Nothing could win the entire thing.
Nothing's going to be in the Final Four. Nothing is something you got to worry about. I don't see Nothing by
Nothing is something you got to worry about. We got to write that quote.
Nothing is something you got to worry about. That's my quote. So the Nothing easily will win this. It's not even a fight.
Own yogiism.
Listen, and I love Ray. All right, Kasey, I already cut you off. You go ahead.
Well, I'm a fan of Ray.
All right,
too,
you've had enough of you. No, I'm kidding.
That's great. Okay, I'm done.
No, go.
Angsty teen will always lose to negative energy. I just think it's a no-brainer in that respect. I'll keep it short.
All right,
simple.
I'm just gonna say Ray has grown up a lot. I don't think of her as an angsty teen. I think she's grown up beyond her years. That's what trauma does to people. Ray is awesome, but I just don't see her surviving the Nothing, no matter how awesome she is. In our last matchup of the second round, we're getting to the Sweet 16 now. We've got Doctor Strange, the number 7 seed, against biblical Jewish legend Samson. Samson was a 15 seed, and somehow he knocked off Thanos, and that was partly because we were working with Lauren, who was calling him Thanos. So clearly somebody wasn't even informed.
And
but
he had
Samson
really chunky fingers, so he couldn't cut Thanos' hair, Samson's hair.
Samson's hair. So Gabriel, you get to either start us off or defer.
As a bald man, I already got a hate on Samson. So,
oh yeah, good angle.
I'm going to give it to Doctor Strange for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a huge fan of Marvel and just Doctor Strange in general, and I just think that he's going to put a spell that's going to keep Samson from being able to enter his world, if you will. I don't really remember too many of Samson's powers. I mean, I know biblical and everything, but yeah, I still got to give it to
Dr. very powerful hair.
He could take pillars and move them like this, like he could destroy them. Like he
was very, very strong. But to Gabriel's point, Doctor Strange is just going to make one of those like time circles, and suddenly he'll just be like in the Himalayas. I mean,
movies. What he's going to wind up doing?
Yeah, so I'm with and I think Doctor Strange actually could match up well against the Nothing in a way that most people could not. I don't know if he's going to beat the Nothing. We'll see. That is a colossal matchup. But Kasey, you have any way to?
And the Nothing,
what's that?
I think Doctor Strange versus the Nothing would be a much better, challenge than Ray.
That's coming up next.
That's coming up next.
Yeah, I think
Kasey,
we're all in
anything
agreement
to say?
about Doctor Strange. I think it's another sweep there. I think Doctor Strange is probably one of the biggest underdogs at a 7 seed in the tournament. I think he's got the skill set and the brains. He's kind of Tony Stark smart, but he also has magic on his side, and he can just transport people or teleport people without even having to fight them necessarily. He can also stop time. For all those reasons, I think he's going to go pretty far. So I think this is an easy victory.
Stopping time versus the Nothing. I can't wait to talk about this. Now, Gabriel, if you want to come back on and talk about these things, you just let us know. You were always welcome here. This was awesome talking about these things with you. I loved your perspectives. I didn't even see some of them coming. Even though you're bald, I said Samson. I just, this is what great comics do. They just make that a connection. So thank you for joining us. And we are moving on to the Sweet 16 next episode. Thanks, Gabriel. Great having you.
I love getting to spend time with Fluffy. Don't you wish you could be like Ross the Boss?
In this case, I am like Ross the Boss. On the next episode, we have more First and 10, all the picks for the upcoming week, more surprise guests, and one bracket's Elite 8 will be determined. Until next week, stay hungry, my friends. This has been MFSN's The Hub.
Don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. You better. If you don't, Ross the Boss will be at your front door. And I will. Don't tempt me. I'm Ross the Boss, and I love talking fantasy sports with you. Cowboy.
Lying with a blanket over my head. She asked if she could see who was under the blanket with me. I said, you don't want to find. It is a decade.